we enter the final match day of CAF World Cup qualifying, Group C to be exact, and you see it right there. Nigeria, the Super Eagles, are on the cusp of missing out of another FIFA World Cup, which takes place next summer here in North America. And to break it down with us, we're going to do a bit of fixing Nigeria with CBS Sports African football expert and my guy, my brother from another brother, Mbizo Mzamane. Mbizo, how you doing? Kushe. Where is your panic meter for this Nigeria side? Because they've looked in shambles for most of this World Cup qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say quaking if I believed that they were still somewhere on the panic meter. But the frank truth is that I believe the meter is obsolete now. I think panic ensues when desperation meets hope. But I don't think there's any hope. And therefore, I don't think there's any panic, to be fair. I think most Nigerian fans have already started working their way through the stages of grief rather than worrying about whether or not they're going to qualify. Obviously, Bafana has been docked points for fielding Deboho Mokoena illegally. He had a suspension and they played him anyway. But at the end of the day, I think most people still expect South Africa to defeat Rwanda and Zimbabwe at home. And then I think Nigeria will defeat Benin as well. I'm hoping so anyway, because then that would qualify Bafana. But at the end of the day, I think that Nigerian fans are more looking towards finishing with some kind of dignity, finishing with a flourish, and then preparing themselves for AFCON, because I think winning AFCON, or at least performing extremely well like they did in the last, might ease some of the pain of not qualifying for the World Cup.
Now, we've seen this in African football where teams show up for AFCON, yet they don't show up for World Cup qualifiers and vice versa. With this Nigeria side, I'm going quaking because there's a lot of issues to be fixed. And you look at the roster alone in Mbizo, there's such an imbalance, as we've talked about, that hasn't changed. Eric Schell was brought in to fix that, and it doesn't look good. Now, hopefully, for the sake of the neutrals, and we got a lot of Nigerians at the network, Nigerians here in the United States and North America, you and I, both some Nigerians, family members even for the Lahoud family are Nigerians. Hopefully, we see Nigeria at the World Cup. But I'm going to go into my three big issues that I have with the Super Eagles side, because there are major cracks in the pavement, and Eric Schell is a part of that process. When I talk about the imbalance, you look at the roster right now, this Nigeria roster, I mean, you have so many attackers, but very little midfielders to begin with. That needs to be addressed. And these are the things I'd love to see done and checked off for Nigeria to get to the World Cup. You have to have a clear team identity. And I'm not just talking about tactics. This team has no leadership. This team has no direction. It's a bunch of individuals that are on the pitch trying to make things happen on their own accord. And then I talked about the midfield. You call up four midfielders in Africa, the best teams. They have the best success. They have the best midfield. Bafana in this group, they have the best midfield. That's why they're on the verge of punching their ticket to a World Cup. And then, of course, the last thing, you take the tactics, you take all the stuff I said out the window. When it comes to your national play, you have to have heart and pride for the jersey. This team has been lacking it, and they need to have it. If they don't, these players might need to get on the first flight out of the country for not qualifying for the World Cup. I have major doubts in Mbizo, but I want to hear from you. What are your big issues that need to be fixed with the Super Eagles?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I think I liked some of your issues there. And one for me, it is tactical. I think that for the quality of players that they have, I think their tactics are very rudimentary. I think they need some improved sophistication to match the quality of these players. Yes, they struggle in the midfield. And I think the lack of a creative player who can allow the team to tick is definitely an issue for them. But I still think that they rely too often on long balls and hopeful crosses. And their attacks, like you said, it's a bunch of individuals and there's no deliberate and coordinated movements. And I think they really need to play more to their strengths. So for me, their wingers are some of the best in the continent, some of the best in the world. I think they need to find their feet. And I think they need to bring Victor Osimhen into the play a little bit more frequently. So I think that would solve some of those issues they have. But that attacking midfield is really, really lacking. But some of my my other issues with them, Mikey, I think are really medium to long term. I think you really need a shakeup at the NFF, and many of my Nigerian counterparts would agree with me that you need more standards, more accountability within the football structure in the country. You need national identity, not only an identity for the team, but a philosophy for the entirety of the football in the country. And they need to be more deliberate, about their player development. I think too often, a Nigerian player pops up in England or pops up in Turkey or pops up somewhere, and then they say, oh, great, this is a great player for the national team. But there's no deliberate tracking and development of these players, including the improvement of the domestic league, in which you need to have that. And I think it's South Africa and Morocco in particular exemplify some of these issues. South Africa is playing with almost exclusively domestic players. One or two guys who are mainstays from Europe, but the league is so good. The players are so good coming out of the country that it gives solidity to the national team. And then, of course, we have spiced it and peppered it with players from Europe. And so I think Nigeria just needs wholesale changes and planning moving forward. And those kinds of issues will then lead to success on the football field.
And Mbizo, you make an excellent point about the recruitment, really about the federation, because that's where I really see it with what you're saying. And Morocco is just what they need to replicate. Morocco, what they did is the investment that they did in the infrastructure is one thing, but the recruitment, they went after dual nationals. You think of how many Nigerian Americans, Nigerian that are from Britain, Nigerians from all around the world that exist. I'm going to throw a couple names at you in terms of youngsters, right? Rio Ngamoa is British and Nigerian. Eberechi Eze, 26 years old. Why did the federation not go after a player like him when he had waited quite some time for his call-up for the Three Lions in England? The ball's been dropped so many times, and I think they're going to suffer that significantly. Now, when we go from the bigger picture into just the cosmic picture, if Nigeria doesn't qualify for the World Cup, what would this mean for Nigerian football right now?
It's as I said, Mikey, I think what it would mean for them is that they really need to focus on wholesale development and wholesale changes. I don't believe that Nigeria can experience sustained success and consistent success under the way that the NFF is managing football in the country. Again, it's very disjointed. It's very haphazard. Things happen by accident. Victories are by accident. Player recruitment is by accident when players show up. Dual nationals, for example, as you said, whereas in Morocco, for example, these are very deliberate approaches to these players. But also because of the way that football is being managed in the country, you're able to attract players who might deny a France or deny a Spain and want to play at home. And I'm sure many Nigerian players feel the same way. But when they look at the structure of football in the country, they maybe think to themselves, this might not be best for me. This might not be best for my career. Can I really reach the individual and personal heights and goals if I play for Nigeria as opposed to in England or another country? So I think really that's what Nigeria needs to do moving forward, is to fix football from the NFF down and not just worry about the football field, the senior team, but worry about every aspect that comes with that works together in those arenas. So,
Mbizo, I'm going to go back to what you said about the things that need to be fixed. And number two was something that really caught my eye in terms of, the football aspect of things, right? We can get away from the tactics and focus more on the holistic football aspect of things. What are you looking to see in terms of that from the Super Eagles across these two matches, just to get that sense of pride and that sense of positive, good vibes back?
Yeah, it's like I said, I think they're going to want to win, of course, whether or not that takes them to the World Cup. I think every Nigeria fan would like to see not just a victory, by the way, but a good performance, a dominating performance, one that matches the caliber and the prestige of the players that they have. Again, even if they don't qualify for the World Cup, I think the Super Eagles will be looking to duplicate their performance in the last AFCON and go a step further, of course, and lift the trophy. again, I believe that would heal some of the wounds of not having qualified for the World Cup. But that means in these competitive matches, playing well and showing that there is hope. I think even for Eric Schell, I think it would be a positive for him and give him a little bit of momentum going into the final stretch toward AFCON. So I think they'll want to win both games. They'll want to win them well. They'd like to play well and to dominate their opponents. I don't think any victory, any regular 3 points will do.
Yeah, the big thing and the big player that's going to decide a lot of it, I go through some names. I think Calvin Bassey's going to have a lot to say with it. Victor Osimhen, who is their talisman and suffered some injuries. I mean, this is only going to be his 4th match in World Cup qualifiers, and it shows how significant when he's on the pitch, results do come. And Ademola Lookman, why has he been struggling for the Super Eagles in World Cup qualifiers, in your opinion? Because he's the reigning African Footballer of the Year, but he hasn't showed up in the significant ways that he did at, AFCON.
Yeah, again, I think it's because of this disjointed attack that Nigeria is using at this current juncture in time. I think players like Lookman, Moses, and Osimhen, I think they feed off of their midfield. They need players who can drop a little bit deeper and can provide those passes, particularly into feet, and not just behind, and not just hopeful long balls. So when you have a player like Lookman, who's probably best when he's running at a defender with the ball at his feet, going at pace, but he's not receiving the ball in those situations as frequently as he does when he's playing in Europe, when he's playing at Atalanta. And the way that he played last season is exactly like that. He needs the ball at his feet so that he can run at defenders. And this is why I say tactically there needs to be a shift. There needs to be a sophistication. They need to put the ball on the ground and give it to these players so that they can do what they do best. And unfortunately, hasn't had an opportunity to do that. And I think the absence of Dele Bashiru, who's very promising in that number 10 role, will hurt them, because for me, Alex Iwobi, as much as he's been a mainstay, he's always dedicated. He's always given his 100%. I don't think he's most comfortable in that 10 position. And I think that they've struggled, therefore, to make the team tick. And as a result, players like Lookman have suffered.
Yeah, you said something about Alex Iwobi, and I'll add to that Eric Schell, my biggest criticism for him, he doesn't know what his best team is. He doesn't know where his players play for their club team, which needs to change. Alex Iwobi's been playing on the left, or he's been playing anywhere on the other side, on the right. And for the love of God, please, 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 will someone get William Troost Ekong off the pitch? He was a difference. He was almost playing as a South African player in that recent match. So hopefully all those things come true. Last question for me and Mbizo. Does Nigeria qualify for the World Cup?
Nigeria does not qualify for the World Cup.
Oof. Wow, you just heard it here from CBS Sports African football expert Mbizo Mzamane. If Mbizo, this happens, party at your place. We're going to have a churrascaria in Brazil.